Well, guys, good evening. Welcome to the second part of tonight's session. Today, we are going to start with our unit 11. Okay, basically, we're moving fast as usual. Remember that, well, while taking a few seconds before we actually start with tonight's topic, tomorrow we will be talking about one aspect for next week, which is how we will be organized for the speaking part. There are 2 new participants. So of course, tomorrow I will, let's say, provide more details on the aspects, how we develop it. I know that most of you already know the drill, but for the new people, of course, it is important to clarify this information as much as possible. So that is going to happen tomorrow. I just want to tell you as well that tonight. Let me see, more people are taking part of our session, of course. So guys, as I was telling you, let me share the whole screen. Today we're starting with Unit 11, and Unit 11 is talking about rules. Let's see the different aspects that we will find, the part of grammar, vocabulary, and of course, then that task that we will be doing as well. It says, in terms of grammar, obligation and permission in the present, obligation and permission in the past. Today, we will talk about obligation and permission in present. There are different possibilities, probably just by looking at the name, you already remember some of them. We will review, let's say, a very specific group. There are many possibilities, but we will probably have a look at, let's say, the most common ones. In terms of vocabulary, we will be talking about linking words, crime and punishment. The task in this unit will be about discuss new laws, and in terms of the language life, expressing and responding to opinion. And probably we won't really, let's say, develop it during our session, but we will have a look at the general aspects of what an opinion essay is. So that is basically the idea of our unit. Of course, as you already know, we will be working on the first 2 pages of our book. And well, actually, before we start, I'm going to take attendance. Most of you are already here. So I can just, let's say, get rid of that task before we start with tonight's topic. Attendance. Ahí está. Saraya Acevedo. Sorry.
Present, teacher.
Okay. Andrés Álvarez.
Present, teacher.
Okay. Joelia Ayala.
Here, teacher.
Okay, really good. Andrea Vaca.
Present, teacher.
Very good. Gilbert Cárdenas. Oh. I think I saw him. Let me see the chat. Okay, there you are. John Carrero.
Good evening, teacher.
Hello, John. Brian Cordero. Is not here. Stephanie Córdoba.
Present, teacher.
Okay. Silvia Alejandra Durán.
Hi, teacher. Present.
There you are. Good. Judy Lisette Liscano. Let me see. Well, Judy's here. Judy Lisette. Bueno, ya me avisará también. Diana Lisette Lozada.
Hi, teacher, I'm here.
Hey, Diana. Luisa Fernanda Paredes.
Present.
Okay. Luisa Fernanda Pérez.
Present, teacher.
Okay. Mayra Juliet Pinzón.
Present, teacher.
Very good. Mayra Alejandra Plata.
Present, teacher.
Okay. Harold David Rodríguez.
Hi, teacher.
Hi, Harold. Angélica Stephanie Sandoval.
Hi, teacher.
Ay, Angélica. Ay, ¿qué pasó? Ok. Daniela Fernanda Sierra.
Hi, teacher.
Ay, Daniela. Ana María Velasco.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Jennifer Jimena Vera.
Here, teacher.
Ok. Natalie Joana Pérez.
Here, teacher.
Ok. Christian Josep Albarracín.
Here, teacher.
Very good. And Daniela Lozada.
Present, teacher.
There you are. So the person that is absent tonight for the moment is Brian. Okay. Let's go back to here, our presentation. I was telling, yes. Push your microphone.
Yes, Judy, sorry, I went out because the internet.
Okay, you don't worry. Let me just make the adjustment here in the attendance and that's it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Well, guys, as I was telling you tonight, let's say officially start with Unit 11. And the general idea of Unit 11 is talking about rules. I'm sure that you already made the connection talking about modals. And that is going to be the core part in terms of the linguistic component. Of course, we will make use of different situations in order to put in practice those things that you already know. Talking about, of course, rules and regulations. The first part is going to be done on a Mentimeter. First, I'm going to display here this slide to have a look, let's send information a little bit better. Of course, I will share the link with you in a moment. It says working groups, but this part we're gonna do it individually. I changed the moment when we work in groups. It says think of at least one rule that you would find in these places, but you're not going to write, in this case, 8 rules. Choose one of them. Think about one rule that you may find on motorways, airports, classrooms, websites, libraries, nightclubs, swimming pools, parks, and open spaces. So for example, let's say that you are going to think of a rule that you see on a library. Probably one of the most common rules that we find at libraries is like you have to be quiet while you are using the place in particular, right? Because the noise is not allowed, blah, blah, blah. The idea is to write only the rule. It's not necessary yet to provide like a full description of what the rule is about. But as I told you a few seconds ago, you are gonna write that information on a Mentimeter so we can see all the different rules displayed. So basically the same idea that we have here in the slide. The difference is that first we're going to do it individually. A second, from all the 8 possibilities, choose only one. Okay? Guys, do you have any questions about the instructions?
No, teacher.
Okay, pretty easy, pretty simple. Remember, for the moment, it is not necessary to expand a lot. Think about those different places and just one rule. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. I think that would be enough for you. There are 24, probably there are some names that are repeated. I know what, 23. Okay, there must be 23 answers then in the Mentimeter. 5 minutes starting now. Well, guys, time's up. Let's have a look at some of your answers. I know that some of you are still like looking up for some information. Remember, guys, to choose only one of them and to share one of the rules that we can find in one of those places. Present the identity document to be able to enter to the nightclub. Websites accept all the cookies and sometimes give your birth date. Date porque birthday suena más como cumpleaños. Birth date ya es la fecha de nacimiento. Not talking loudly or eating. Okay. To be there, you need to be of legal age. Absolutely. You mustn't urinate in the swimming pools. It is a prohibition. Parks and open spaces. Yeah, I forgot to tell you. Put the name of the place, but I didn't tell you, so my mistake. Don't throw garbage on the ground. In airports is forbidden smoking. Entonces, in airports, smoking is forbidden. Okay. You can't smoke here. Well, that applies to different places, I'm sure. It is not permitted to run around swimming pools. Okay. The smoking area is not inside the nightclub. Libraries, you have to be silent. Absolutely. Probably one of the most common. Okay. In this case, we had more than one. Library silence, please. Okay. That looks more like a command. Airport cell phones on airplane mode in the plane. Sorry, swimming pools. We're betting cups, nightclubs, only over 18. Websites, don't be a robot. Parks and open spaces, clean the dog poop. Falta una O acá. Websites, accept the cookies. En Classroom, pues el espacio no alcanzó, obviamente. Speed limit, no smoking, selling required, do not entry food, come on. Okay. Motorway, you must not exceed the maximum speed limit for the road and for your vehicle. Okay, this looks more like a complete statement, not only just a phrase. That was like the idea. In motorways, should be, okay, entonces, in motorways, the speed limits should be respected. Pilas con el orden, ¿listo? Airport, arrive 2 hours before your flight. Be quiet in classrooms and libraries. Don't don't fight in nightclubs. Child should be with their parents. Bueno, children, child would be singular, right? At swimming pools, don't leave trash at parks. Do not exceed the speed limit, 80 miles per hour. Okay, miles, very elegant. Airports, be on time, do the check-in and the size of the bags. In libraries, you have to keep in silence. When you drive in motorways, you have to turn on the lights after 6 p.m. You should check your documents and flight pass. If you want to swim in this pool, you must wear the right clothes. Very good. Nice way to create the statements. The last one, I think, motorways, turn on lights after 6 p.m. Airports, hand baggage must not weigh more than 10 kilograms. Classroom, don't standing with no permission. Sería don't stand. Cuando estamos hablando de un comando, como es una especie de orden, el verbo no puede ir con ing. Va en infinitivo. Libraries, please silence. Swimming pool, don't run. Así como las otras que tenemos ahí. Okay. Very good, guys. Let's close this one. Let's go back to the presentation. This is like my point of reference for the night. As I was telling you, that's the idea of tonight, talking about rules and regulations. Of course, we will have a look at more rules, probably extra rules compared to the ones that you have already shared. These are the images that we have in our book. You know, the thing is that in order to make it easier to navigate, that is why I put them on the presentation. But of course, all of you guys on pages 106 and 107, you have the pictures, as I was telling you, just to, let's say, facilitate a little bit the process of analyzing the images. We're going to do a listening exercise. It is going to be divided into 2 parts. So you pay all your attention specifically to the questions that are being asked. Let's have a look at the 2 first questions that we have in here. Daniela Lozada, please, could you read question 1 and question 2?
Which place in exercise 1 is each person talking about? And find the photos that the rules refer to.
Very good. Maybe you're thinking, but what do you mean by places? the places, let me go back, that we used for the first activity that we were doing on the Mentimeter. Let me refresh your memory, although I know that you have the books. Motorways, airports, classroom, websites, libraries, nightclubs, swimming pools, parks, and open spaces. So first of all, out of the conversation that you are going to listen, you have to make sure that you specify the place that they are talking about, okay? In one conversation, actually, they are talking about two places. So anyway, when you listen, you are going to notice that part. Then the second part, based on the information that you listen, you have to make sure that you, let's say, match with the proper picture. Notice that in here, we have the different letters, A, B, C, D, in here, E, F, G, H, and I. You have to match the people, let's call it like that, to the picture that they are referring to, okay? Do you have any questions, guys?
No, teacher.
Very good. As I was telling you, we're going to use this track twice, but for the moment, I want you to focus your attention on this first part. Remember, in one of the conversations, they are combining a little bit the places that are being described. Let's listen twice.
Unit 11, recording 1. 1.
One thing that really annoys me is when there are parks and open spaces and they have signs saying no ball games. I mean, everyone complains about children these days not getting enough exercise and hanging around on street corners and things. But then they don't allow them to play anywhere or do anything. Kids should have the right to play in public places. Otherwise, they're going to get into trouble, aren't they?
2.
One thing that really annoys me is speed cameras on motorways. I mean, everyone breaks the law on motorways, don't they? I don't even think speeding on motorways is really dangerous. I think the police should be really tough on people who speed in towns and cities, because obviously that can be dangerous. But speed cameras and speeding fines on motorways are just a way for the government to make money, aren't they? Why don't the police spend their time catching real criminals instead?
3.
One rule that really annoys me is that you always have to tick the box to say that you've read the terms and conditions on a website. If you want to buy something or, I don't know, become a member of something, then you've got to tick that box and you're not allowed to continue if you don't tick the box. And that's really unfair. And there are usually about 100 pages of terms and conditions. I mean, who reads all of that? I know I should read it, but I don't. And I don't think anyone does. And anyway, even if I did read it, I wouldn't be able to understand it. It's crazy. It really annoys me.
4.
I think it's really unfair that mobile phones are banned in class and even in some restaurants and places. I mean, I know it's illegal to use your phone when you're driving or something like that, and that's perfectly reasonable because obviously it's dangerous. But there's no point in banning phones in schools. They're part of everyone's life now, and everyone looks at their phone if they quickly want to get some information on the internet or whatever. Okay, maybe there should be rules about what you can and can't do with your phone. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be allowed to have a phone conversation in the middle of a lesson, but it's not fair to actually ban phones.
5.
One thing that really annoys me is having to show ID to go into nightclubs and bars. I'm 23 and I still have to show ID to prove that I'm over 18. It's ridiculous. People say I ought to be pleased that I look young, but I'm not. It drives me mad.
Okay, this is the first time. Of course, the second time will be with the following exercise. So let me ask Mayra Pinzon. The first person, which of the places is talking about?
Teacher, sorry, I don't understand the first.
Teacher, can you repeat again the audio?
Okay, sure, absolutely. Let's repeat it.
Unit 11, Recording 1. 1.
One thing that really annoys me is when there are parks and open spaces and they have signs saying no ball games. I mean, everyone complains about children these days not getting enough exercise and hanging around on street corners and things. But then they don't allow them to play anywhere or do anything. Kids should have the right to play in public places. Otherwise, they're going to get into trouble, aren't they?
2.
One thing that really annoys me is speed cameras on motorways. I mean, everyone breaks the law on motorways, don't they? I don't even think speeding on motorways is really dangerous. I think the police should be really tough on people who speed in towns and cities, because obviously that can be dangerous. But speed cameras and speeding fines on motorways are just a way for the government to make money, aren't they? Why don't the police spend their time catching real criminals instead?
3.
One rule that really annoys me is that you always have to tick the box to say that you've read the terms and conditions on a website. If you want to buy something or, I don't know, become a member of something, then you've got to tick that box and you're not allowed to continue if you don't tick the box. And that's really unfair. And there are usually about 100 pages of terms and conditions. I mean, who reads all of that? I know I should read it, but I don't. And I don't think anyone does. And anyway, even if I did read it, I wouldn't be able to understand it. It's crazy. It really annoys me.
4.
I think it's really unfair that mobile phones are banned in class and even in some restaurants and places. I mean, I know it's illegal to use your phone when you're driving or something like that, and that's perfectly reasonable because obviously it's dangerous. But there's no point in banning phones in schools. They're part of everyone's life now, and everyone looks at their phone if they quickly want to get some information on the internet or whatever. Okay, maybe there should be rules about what you can and can't do with your phone. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be allowed to have a phone conversation in the middle of a lesson, but it's not fair to actually ban phones.
5.
One thing that really annoys me is having to show ID to go into nightclubs and bars. I'm 23 and I still have to show ID to prove that I'm over 18. It's ridiculous. People say I ought to be pleased that I look young, but I'm not. It drives me mad.
Okay. Let's see. So Mayra Pinzon.
In the first, they talk about parks and open space that the children spaces that children can play in there in games. And he says that children can
Well, don't expand yet, Mayra, because that is like the next part. So yes, of course, talking about parks and spaces. And which picture from the ones that we have in here?
Sí, G?
Not really.
D.
Picture D. Yeah, precisely. That is one of the things he's pointing out. But as I told you, let's not expand on that yet, because that is like the second part. What about the next? Well, Mayra, thank you very much. Ana Maria, what about the second person? Which is the topic?
Motorways.
Very good. And what is the picture for that one?
A.
Picture A, that's it. What about the next person, Andrea? Which was the topic?
Websites.
It was websites. Which picture would that one be?
B.
Very good. Andres, person number 4. What is she talking about?
I didn't get it, teacher.
You didn't get it?
Get it, sorry, get it.
Don't worry. Let's ask Angelica for help. Which was the topic of the 4th participant? Let's call it like that.
Teacher, I listen very well, but maybe I think that when he pays the ticket, the bus.
Sorry. Sarah, you raise your hand. So, which was the topic? What was the place actually?
Classroom is when we use the
Not
cell
using cell phones in the classroom.
Very good. Which picture would that one be?
B.
That would be B. Very good. Yeah, it was a little bit tricky. Let's put it like that. And Brian, what about conversation 5? What is she talking about?
Teacher, she was talking about the nightclubs. She was
Don't
angry.
Don't expand yet, Brian. And which picture?
The first one.
That would be picture C. Very good. Well, actually, I was telling you, okay, don't expand a little bit because that was the idea, or that's the idea of the next activity. Is the same listening, of course, and I'm sure that while they were, let's say, providing their information, somehow, probably you would agree with some of them, and of course, you would disagree with some of them. So one part of the, let's say, second activity that you're going to do is something that you already collected. Some of you, of course, will want to play it again, which is why exactly do they find these rules annoying? Guys, do you remember the meaning of annoying?
Molesto.
Molesto, que fastidia. Excellent, very good. So while we listen one more time to, let's say, expand on that information, that would be the first. And second, because I'm also going to ask you, which rules, if any, do you agree with? Although they are explaining aspects that they don't really like about the rules, probably there are some aspects that for you, you say, okay, but maybe that's annoying, but at the end of the day, that's necessary, that's important, that's relevant, that we need in order to, let's say, not have problems. I don't know. That would be like the opinion that you share. So we're gonna listen one more time, but remember that in this case, our attention is focused on why they find the rules annoying, and in your case, the ones that you agree with, okay? Guys, from this, let's say, new question, do you have any questions?
No, teacher.
No, teacher.
We're gonna listen only once, and this will be the final time.
Unit 11, recording 1. 1.
One thing that really annoys me is when there are parks and open spaces and they have signs saying no ball games. I mean, everyone complains about children these days not getting enough exercise and hanging around on street corners and things. But then they don't allow them to play anywhere or do anything. Kids should have the right to play in public places. Otherwise, they're going to get into trouble, aren't they?
2.
One thing that really annoys me is speed cameras on motorways. I mean, everyone breaks the law on motorways, don't they? I don't even think speeding on motorways is really dangerous. I think the police should be really tough on people who speed in towns and cities, because obviously that can be dangerous. But speed cameras and speeding fines on motorways are just a way for the government to make money, aren't they? Why don't the police spend their time catching real criminals instead?
3.
One rule that really annoys me is that you always have to tick the box to say that you've read the terms and conditions on a website. If you want to buy something or, I don't know, become a member of something, then you've got to tick that box, and you're not allowed to continue if you don't tick the box. And that's really unfair. And there are usually about 100 pages of terms and conditions. I mean, who reads all of that? I know I should read it, but I don't. And I don't think anyone does. And anyway, even if I did read it, I wouldn't be able to understand it. It's crazy. It really annoys me.
4.
I think it's really unfair that mobile phones are banned in class and even in some restaurants and places. I mean, I know it's illegal to use your phone when you're driving or something like that, and that's perfectly reasonable because obviously it's dangerous. But there's no point in banning phones in schools. They're part of everyone's life now, and everyone looks at their phone if they quickly want to get some information on the internet or whatever. Okay, maybe there should be rules about what you can and can't do with your phone. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be allowed to have a phone conversation in the middle of a lesson, but it's not fair to actually ban phones.
5.
One thing that really annoys me is having to show ID to go into nightclubs and bars. I'm 23 and I still have to show ID to prove that I'm over 18. It's ridiculous. People say I ought to be pleased that I look young, but I'm not. It drives me mad.
Okay. Let's have a look at your answers. Let me ask Christian. So, what about the first person? We already knew that he was talking about parks and open spaces. What exactly does he find annoying about those rules?
That everyone complains about now the kids not play around any place or hang out outside, but there's no place where it's allowed to play. So in every place there are rules which they cannot do anything.
Exactly, and that is the reason why he's complaining a lot. Like, also that would, let's say, stop kids getting into trouble if they had actually a place to, you know, to play or to hang out at least. Great, Christian. Thank you very much. The second person, just to refresh our memory, was talking about motorways. Daniela, what doesn't she like about that rule?
Which Daniela teacher?
Ay, Cristo. Daniela Fernanda.
Okay, speed cameras on motorways. She said that governments only use that for make money, and why don't spend this time in chase the real criminals?
Exactly, absolutely. Like, it is supposed to, for a car to go fast, you know, the motorway, so what's the point of that? Very good, Daniela Fernanda. Diana, what about the third person? Let's remember, he's talking about websites. What's the annoying thing?
Yes, teacher. For him, the annoying thing is that he has to tick every box in websites like terms and conditions, and he knows that he has to read it, but no one does it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is true. Like when you see terms and conditions, it looks like 30 pages, accept. Hopefully it is not that bad. Very good, Diana. Thank you. Jennifer, in number 4, the girl is well, talking about the schools, like in general. What is the annoying thing that she sees in the classrooms?
She says that, or he considers that it's annoying about not using your mobile phone in classrooms. She considers that it's illegal, for example, when you are driving, but not at schools, because those are necessary for share something relevant.
For searching, absolutely.
For searching something relevant, yes, teacher.
Excellent, Jennifer. Thank you very much. And John, in the 5th intervention, she's talking about nightclubs. What's the annoying rule for her?
Teacher, the rule that annoys her is that always they request her her document or her ID, and that's the point.
Exactly. She says that some people tell her like, but you should be, like happy and grateful because you look young, but for her, it is not a compliment. So after...
And I completely understand her, because for me, always when I go to these kind of places, always they say like, I need your ID, and it's like, I'm 23 years old. I don't trust you. I need your ID to confirm, because you look younger than you said. And I like what?
Okay, John. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a matter of perception. Some people like it, some people don't. After a few years, you actually like it more. But of course, that's depending on what you agree with. Well, guys, I was also asking you that based on what they have shared because here it says if they agreed with any of them, but of course you already noticed that actually they don't agree with the rules. There are some parts that they consider necessary, like as you were saying, probably using the phone when driving, something like that. But for you guys, from your perception, I'm gonna ask Luisa Fernanda Paredes. Based on those rules, which one or which ones do you agree with?
Teacher, I think that I agree with high speed, because there are many accidents on roads, so it's important like control the speed when you are driving.
Okay, absolutely. Let's see if Luisa Perez agrees with a different rule, or maybe it's the same one. Luisa Perez? It looks like Luisa just left for this precise moment. Mayra Plata, what about you? Which of those 5 do you actually agree with?
Teacher, the second one, novel games in the parks, because I think that all the children needs open places to play with balls, or we play with them, Parks are a good place for that. I remember I was a child, I always loved to go to the park because we were able to do that kind of games, or that specific games in that places.
Okay, well, you agree with the idea of having places, open spaces for children, and that they can actually play, because actually what they were explaining in this one is that there is a space, but the rule is like no ball games. Okay, guys, of course, tonight we will have more opportunities for you to share your ideas, and that is going to be the purpose of the next exercise. Yesterday, we were working on the written part. Today, we're going to work on the speaking part. And I'm sure that at this point, you already know the idea of the think, pair, share. So first, you're going to read the following statements individually. The idea, of course, is that you're going to take some notes while you answer those questions. You already listened to some of your classmates. I didn't want to expand too much, but now every single one of you are going to share which speakers do you agree with? Which other rules and laws do you find annoying? Not only from the 5 different places that we have just heard, but talking about other rules from other places that for you, from your perspective, your opinion, you also find annoying. And number 3, do you ever break rules? If so, which rules and in which circumstances? Once again, based on the fact that you share what you want, I don't want you to think that I'm asking you like very personal things. Of course, this is not going to have like an impact on, I don't know, the grade, because if you break rules, maybe something bad is going to happen. Of course, that's not the point. So guys, remember, I'm gonna give you first here in the group, in this call, 5 minutes. Remember the intention of this first part of the think per share. You think, and then you are going to take some notes. I know that some of you have a really good memory, so probably you don't really need to do that, but just a piece of advice, like take some notes. So on the second part, it will be easier for you to share your opinion. Guys, for the moment, are these 3 questions clear for you?
Yes, teacher, it's clear.
Perfect. So remember, 5 minutes for you to analyze the questions in this moment. Starting now. Okay, guys, time's up. Now we're going to move to the second part of the task. And let me see the chat for a moment. Let me answer here, this. Okay, good, guys. Remember the next part. What is going to be the intention? As usual, in this type of activities, all members of the group are going to share the answers of the 3 questions. The intention, as always, is that you are going to summarize your answers in your breakout rooms. Make sure that everybody, well, hopefully, of course, everybody participates. That's the main intention of this type of activities. I'm pretty sure that most of the time you allow everybody to provide their opinion. Probably some of you are a little bit shy, but what I like about the breakout rooms is that in that space you are with your classmates. Probably it's going to sound silly, but probably you feel like worried, I don't know, to talk about like in the whole session where the 23, 24, 23 of us are here. So maybe you feel a little bit more secure in the breakout rooms. I don't visit the breakout rooms precisely to give you like, let's say, that privacy and at the same time that freedom. So make sure that everybody participates. Of course, when we come back, we're going to socialize your answers, okay? Choose the speaker. And remember something that I told you, yeah, last week. The ones that have never been like, you know, the speaker of the group, try at least once, you know, to be the speaker. Anyway, notice that you will have the time to put the information together, to agree with your classmates, and maybe at some point, if you need help, one person can also like, let's say, support you and to help you out, just in case you would feel a little bit, let's say, confused. So guys, you know the drill. You go in the groups, you are going to share the answers. When we come back, each group will share, let's say, the final conclusions of the information, okay? While I set up the groups, questions? No questions?
No, teacher.
No, teacher.
Okay, well, when all of you are already in the group, I'm gonna send you the first message. You're going to have 12 minutes. Let's start. Bueno, Harold y Natalie, cuéntenme.
Sorry, teacher, can you send me? Okay.
To who? Oh my God. Gilbert, yes, I'm gonna send you to group 4. I saw that you were already there. So I think that it's because of the microphone thing. Okay. Harold has the same issue, looks like. Well, Harold, I'll send you to group 6 at least. So Ellie, we're having problems with the connection tonight. Yeah, I don't remember. I guess it was number 2.
Hi, guys.
No, Harold, you are in the general call again. I'm gonna send you to room
Okay,
6
sorry.
too.
I have in the group seats, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, but it seems that with the other account, you are already in group 6. Perfect. No. Mm. Well, guys, once again, welcome back. I really hope that you had the opportunity to share all your ideas, that everybody participated. You know, that's the point of these, let's say, spaces and exercises. Well, so let's begin. Tonight, we have in group number 1, Daniela Lozada, Christian Josep Albarracin, Diana Lozada, almost family, and Silvia Duran. So guys, which one of you is in charge of sharing the ideas tonight?
Teacher, I'm going to share the screen and
Perfect.
we are in charge of one
of the questions, the items.
Well, for the first question, which speakers do you agree with? We agreed that it's annoying to ticket every single box in websites to get in there, like terms and conditions, allow cookies and things like that. We know that it is necessary in terms of web security, but it is a little bit annoying. We also agree with the second speaker. We agree that speeds should be controlled in some places, not on highways, but inside cities and in places where it can be dangerous. Yes, it be controlled.
Okay.
For the second question, teacher, for us, it's really annoying not allowing our pets to enter some restaurants or other places. And nowadays, we should be a pet-friendly society. We also find annoying that even it can enter in a park with your dog. If you are responsible and pick up the dog poop, this should be to allow it the access.
And for the third one, we think that yes, we all break the rule in some points. And normally when we going to a seat to a place and the speed limits of some roads, and many times we break them without realizing it. And maybe being noisy in places that should be not be like public places. So yes, we break out.
Okay, good. Nice. I wanted to ask you about, no lo quito todavía.
Sorry, teacher.
Don't worry. In the first answer, the second like mini paragraph that you have, it says where it can be dangerous. Yes, it be controlled. I don't get yet it be controlled. What do you mean? Yeah. No, yes.
I think we made a mistake in there.
It must be controlled.
See, without just, it can be dangerous and it
must be controlled.
Okay. And in the question number 2, the dog's poop with the possessive. Okay. Perfect, ladies. Thank you very much. Well, you decided to share the responsibility. Of course, that's also a nice strategy to follow.
Thank you, teacher.
Yes, now you can stop sharing your screen. Let's have a look at group number 2. We have Jennifer, Jimena, Stephanie, and Judy.
Hi, teacher.
Hello. Oh, and also Joely, but I noticed that she had some problems with the connections. I hope that she could share some of her ideas.
Yeah, I have problems today.
Oh my God. So let's share.
We agree with the rules related to motorways, nightclubs, and websites. In general, we should respect the speed limit when we are driving. At Night Plus, it's necessary to show your ID. Due to it is illegal that children enter to this place. Finally, it is necessary to accept terms and conditions in the website because we should be concerned about what kind of content we are searching for. For the second questions, first, website cookies. It's annoying to have to accept cookies to view information on a website, and that's basically agreeing to a breach of personal security. And hospitals don't permit to enter children under 13 to visit their relatives. And it's annoying that every single time people go into a nightclub, they have to present the ID card. I mean, I understand that people only over 18 should be allowed, and that there are some that look older, but it's still annoying. For the three questions, first, do you ever break rules? Sometimes, and in which circumstance life or integrity of any person or animal at risk. And one example is we sometimes enter food when we go to the cinema. Everything is expensive there, like working fast food. So we sometimes violating that rule.
Okay. Group number 2, thank you very much. Just one thing in the final part of the first question, because we should be concerned, ED.
Okay.
But okay. Group number 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have a look at group number 3. Okay, notice how different somehow your answers have been. Of course, talking about the aspects that you agree with the people from the listening and also the ones where you break the rules. Group number 3, we have Mayra, Angelica, Brian, and Luisa. Who's in charge?
Hi, teacher.
Hi, Mayra.
I don't remember the name, but it says Lisa.
Sorry.
Me.
I see like 3 microphones open, so my mistake. I don't recognize your voices.
Chicas, ¿quieren parte? No sé. Okay. ¿Sí? Okay. Okay, teacher. Sorry. In the first part, which speakers do you agree with? So the first part, the first one, children should be able to play ball games in the parks. It's a healthy and relaxing activity for children. Exercise improves the physical and mental health. And for the second, number 3 is annoying to accept these terms and conditions for using website. It's true that many times you don't understand all that information. For the second question, it's which other rules and laws do you find annoying? And we say in the first, in some places it's mandatory to wear masks, even though that it's not necessary. And in the second, to do a line in the bank, it's you like a turn is annoying because I don't understand the point to have a ticket with a number if anyway you have to do the line. And for the last one, do you ever break the rules? And if so, which rules and which circumstance? And in the first, I don't I don't like to break rules because I don't feel comfortable doing something correctly. The second is, yes, I live in a small town and most people don't have driving license. You can drive without a license. So yes, when I go to my town, I drive and I don't have a driving license. And the last one is in my house, when I do not agree with my mom, I use it to break the rule to come back early at home if I have something important to do. And it's all, teacher.
Okay, Natalie. Well, first of all, check the spelling of which in the first and the second question. Le quitaron la H. Notice how you wrote which in the first and the second. Okay. Don't worry. That happens sometimes. And Natalie, the pronunciation of license. Okay. You said license. And having a look. Okay. And in the second question, you said to do a line in the bank is you have a turn. I don't get this. Is you have a turn. What do you mean? To do a line in the bank? Yes. But is you have a turn? That's the part that I don't really understand.
Like a ticket. When you go to the bank, they give you like a ticket. You are the number 2, but you have to do the line anyway.
No, I mean, when you paraphrase it, I get the idea, but that sentence, to do a line in the bank.
So this,
is you have a turn, it's annoying. No, I don't.
It's a ticket?
You have a ticket. To do the line in the bank is you have. Es que ese is, I don't get that is what how is playing in the sentence.
It's because I don't know. I think the grammar changed my.
Maybe that's the thing. To do a line in the back, if you have a ticket, it's annoying. Okay, that makes more sense. Well, to do a line in the bank, comma, if you have a ticket, it's annoying. Okay, I see. Well, that changed the whole thing.
I think it was a.
And in the question number 3, in the final one that you said, in my house, when I do not agree, that the start makes me think that we're talking about something in present, right? And then you said, I used to break the rule. So it's in present or it's in past that you don't agree with your mom? It's my question is a little bit confusing, maybe. Not in the statement. It says in my house when I.
So, okay, the rule is come back early at home. So if you not agree with that, so I break the rule. I'm not sure if I'm clearly with the idea.
Notice that in the
part. Oh, I got it. Like, I did not agree with my mom. So when I don't know, I didn't agree with my mom. I used in past, no? To make her rule, actually. It could be her rule.
No, the rule is fine. But in this case, if you want to specify the rule that was from your mom, that's perfect. And then it says, in my house, when I did not agree with my mom, I used to break her rule to come back early at home. If I had, then something important to do, you know, to keep the alignment. And then now we're talking about a rule that you didn't follow in the past because that was what you wanted to share. Perfect, ladies. Guys,
thank you, teacher.
Sorry, thank you. Let's continue. We are now going to listen to group number 5, Andrea, Mayra Plata, and Natalie Pex.
Teacher, I stay with the last group. My internet give me.
And I am in the group number 3, and we already speak.
No, spoke was fine. But so in this case, yeah, that's how it was organized. That's a little bit weird. Yeah, it says group 5, Andrea, Mayra, and Natalie, sorry, and group 6. Okay, my mistake.
Andrea. The teacher said group number 4, but in the group number 4 is Mayra too. Other Mayra.
No. In group number 4 is Ana Maria, Daniela Fernanda, Sarai, and Gilbert. No, my mistake. I said 4 and 5, but I guess it's because my eyes are already tired.
We are agree with.
We agree.
Okay. We agree with the second ones about motorways and nightclub, and the last one about show our IDs.
About showing.
our IDs, because especially when we look older, it's okay. Pardon, when we look young, it's okay. But when we look older, not necessary. And about website information. So in some case, it's a lot of information and it's difficult to understand all documents. About second, well, I told that for me it's annoying to use mask in a hospital. That was necessary in COVID, but other partners or a person said that for they is in opposite to me, is necessary. For example, say that when a person have flu, he needs to use. And other person say change the topic. Is annoying the size of backpack on the airport. The other one said that is annoying when nightclubs close early. In this case, we share that the problems not is like the nightclubs. It's not the nightclubs, is the localization of the nightclubs. But other person said that for she no is for her no is the problem. The problem is the behavior of the person. And teacher, we didn't have time to respond the last questions.
Oh, that's sad. Okay. Well, I was expecting to see something like to share the information also visually, but Daniela, as usual, thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Okay, group number 6. We have Andres, Harold, and Luisa Perez.
Okay, teacher, like Daniela, we agree with the last speaker, because for us we hate when in a club they need to show our ID.
Okay.
And other rules that we hate about the club is that you should need to pay for alcohol to be able to sit at a table.
Ah, that's annoying.
And sometimes people just want dancing. So we hate that. Also, we hate when companies force us to pay an extra amount for traveling by bus or plane with our pet, no matter if it's a small dog or cat. It's irrelevant. And other thing that, when I answer the last question is that we don't used to breaking rules. But we get there are situations when we should. For example, when always, when we have an emergency, it's necessary. Basically, this is all.
Okay. I want to be mandatory according to the waivers. Okay, that would be it. Thank you very much, Andres. Well, you already made the changes. Yeah, careful with the agree word, right? Remember that in English, we don't use the verb to be that we use in Spanish. In Spanish, we say estoy de acuerdo. And that is probably we make the connection, but in English, we can't use the verb to be. Those are many things that with time we continue polishing. Okay, guys, and basically like to wrap up all this information that we have been discussing, talking about rules and regulations, as you already noticed from the very beginning, tonight we are talking about modals in general. Remember that in this unit, we will be talking about two groups in particular. The first group, which is the one of tonight, of course, talking about the ones of obligation and permission in present, and then we will eventually talk about the ones in past. Now, you already know that when we're talking about modals, we have, let's say, a very comprehensive range of possibilities based on what we are going to use them. Of course, there are some cases that if we're talking about rules and regulations, we don't have any possibilities. Those are the ones that we have to use. For example, let's start with the first group, probably one of the most demanding in terms of the intentionality that they provide, and is the group of obligation. I'm sure that you already remember have to. Have to probably is one of the most common ones, talking about the obligation. Also, we have, let's say, a second one. When I say second, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is not as important as the first one, which is must. In general idea, both mean the same. I mean, if we use have to or if we use must, both of them are talking about obligation. But probably in some cases, we want to be really specific, you know, we want to have like that precise difference between them. Usually when we are talking about have to, we're talking about an obligation that comes from outside the speaker. That means somehow I am, let's say, forced to follow that regulation because that was, let's say, imposed by whatever thing. For example, we have to wear a uniform when we are working in reception. That means in this case that maybe somebody at different office, like the boss, let's say, gave me that instruction in this particular example to wear a uniform. It says a student to a teacher, when do we have to hand our homework? That means that the professor provides, in this case, an assignment that is a specific date to be sent. So the student needs to follow the regulation that once again was provided by, let's say, third party. And finally, something that probably looks a little bit obvious, but also very relevant. Notice that if we are using have to, we have to be very careful with the third person. And as you already know, third person in this case would be has. If the statement is negative, of course, the idea changes completely. So if we're talking about an obligation, something that we have to follow, we use have to only in the affirmative form. Remember the idea, talking about something that was, let's say, imposed. I know that imposed sounds a little bit dramatic, but that is basically the intention. Of course, let's not forget must. Must is always going to sound a little bit stronger, you know, that is basically the idea. Again, we keep talking about obligation and necessity. What is going to be then the difference with have to? Probably now my intention is that the obligation comes from the person who's talking. Could be an authority, probably the one who wrote the statement. For example, I must phone my dad, it's his birthday. That means that for me, I'm placing, let's say, that responsibility on my action. In some cases, of course, we're talking about rules and regulations, which is probably the most common use for must. Seatbelt must be worn by all passengers. Probably it's one of the most common examples talking about in planes. And of course, we will talk about that on our next session. If we want to talk about obligations in past, we use had to instead of must. So in general conclusion from this group, obligation, have to and must, they mean exactly the same. If you want to be very precise, have to, it's external obligation, let's put it like that. Must usually comes from the speaker. Now let's go to the whole opposite angle. I was telling you, we gotta be really careful when we use it, in the negative form. Don't have to means that we don't have the obligation. That means that it is not necessary. That you can do something, but if you don't do it, it's okay. It's not compulsory. For example, you don't have to wear a tie in our office, but some people like to dress more formally. If you don't have to wear a tie, that means if you put the tie on, it's okay. If you don't put it, it's perfectly fine. So let's be careful when we use don't have to as a way to talk about something that is not an obligation. If it is third person, which is going to be the auxiliary, doesn't have to. On a less degree, we're talking about permission. We have two possibilities. We can use can or be allowed to. Okay, basically they mean, let's say exactly the same. The idea with can and be allowed to somehow is to make a proper combination and not combining two modals. Remember, guys, the meaning of be allowed to?
¿Como tener la autorización?
Yeah, como tener el permiso de...
Permitido.
Exacto, permitido. Very good. Well, I guess that the first one is also a good one that we can use. I
Sure,
just
sorry.
wanted to be very specific with this one. Yes?
In the second sentences, it's missing the verb to be. I guess you are allowed or you allow it.
No, you are right. That's the idea. To use the be, actually. Absolutely right. Thank you. Yes, they're basically the same, talking about permission or possibility. Whatever you use is going to be fine. It's just because in some cases we can't combine two modals, okay? But at the end of the day, they are pretty much the same. When we're talking about obligation or something that, let's say, can't be done, that's when we use mustn't. So we gotta be really careful with the difference between mustn't, and the difference between don't have to. Notice that, I'm going back. When the statements are affirmative, have to and must mean exactly the same, obligation. But when the statements are negative, the idea is the whole complete opposite. In the case here of mustn't, that means that there is going to be a problem. So you are not allowed to do any type of activity. For example, visitors must not park in the staff car park. It is a prohibition. Probably that's the word that we can connect the most when we're talking about must. I'm going back to this one, but if we use don't have to, it's because there is not an obligation. So guys, be really careful. If they are affirmative, they mean the same. But if they are negative, the idea is completely different. In one case, talking about a prohibition, and in this case, talking about that we don't have any obligation whatsoever. In the same line of prohibitions, we can use can't. Once again, what is going to be the difference? Of course, mustn't sounds a little bit more dramatic, more demanding. Remember that that is probably the model that has more presence talking about rules and regulations, but also can't makes that idea or provide that situation that, okay, this is not allowed. And we have already refreshed our memory about the meaning of allowed. And then our final group, probably talking about should or oughta. Remember the pronunciation in this case is not ought to, that we may think that that is the pronunciation. And basically when we're talking about should and oughta, we're talking about something that looks like an obligation, but more like an obligation. We're talking about the right thing to do, like what it is expected to be done. Of course, in same line, maybe I wouldn't say the same context. The most common use for should and oughta is when we are talking about recommendations, okay? So we have a whole, let's say, group of modals talking about from different perspectives, talking about the obligations, talking about the permissions, talking about prohibitions, and in this case, talking about things that are, let's say, why not morally correct, let's put it like that, or really good ideas, which is the real intention of should and oughta at the end of the day. Guys, it was like a whole review of modals. Remember that for the moment we're talking about modals in present. Do you have any question?
Teacher, the pronouns de oda es con D o con R? ¿Ora o oda?
Ere.
Ora.
It's like our R in Spanish, yeah, ora.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Teacher, but that one is not very common. I never hear something like that. I don't know.
Well, we are not that familiar with that one, you know, it exists. I'm not going to say that it is a word that is not being used anymore, but definitely should is more common. So, well, somehow we can say that it is not that known, but it exists, you know, in case that we hear it. It's the synonym of should. The thing is that we can't use ora on a negative sentence like in contraction. Probably that's the reason why. Notice here the ora in the negative form. We have to add the not. So probably that is like the reason why, but should is more common.
Thank you, teacher.
Very good. What else, guys? Angelica, you raise your hand. Tell me.
Yes, teacher. In some cases, we have only used ora, or it's the same both should and ora.
They are the same. Actually, you know, some books in the past, because I haven't seen that, let's say, differentiation anymore, they stated that ora was for moral obligations, you know, and should was a little bit more flexible, talking about a piece of advice or something. But, you know, at the end of the day, they mean the same. It's okay. It is not only about moral obligations. It doesn't appear on texts anymore. So I think that probably Oxford decided, okay, they are synonyms. There is no need to make that differentiation between both of them. Yeah, guys. Very good. Any other question from the others? Any aspect that you want to clarify?
No, teacher. Teacher?
Yes.
And the slide when you spoke about can and be allowed to. For example, in the second sentence of can, for me, it's the same about the be allowed to in example. So what is the difference?
Not real difference. They are synonyms. You can say, for example, you can use my car if you like, in the context of permission, of course. And you are allowed to use my car if you like. Any of the statements are correct. Probably similar to what happened to the ora one. We are more, let's say, used to use can, and maybe we like consider that be allowed to is a little bit more formal. Imagine that you're talking to a friend. So it is a little bit more, let's say, or less dramatic using can, but if you use be allowed to, the intentionality is the same. If we want to change, for example, the first one that says, can I sit here? What would be the question using be allowed to?
Can I allowed to sit here?
Remember that if we use can, we don't use be allowed. It is or one or the other.
I'm allowed to sit here.
Am I allowed to sit here? Exactly. And notice that talking about permission is exactly the same. Like, just to clarify, you already know that can is also talking about abilities, right? In that context, we can't use it with be allowed to. In this case, it's only because of the context of permission, not the context of abilities. Okay. Very good, guys. Well, it was a really, let's say, nice, let's call it discussion, talking about the modals. We will be using them a little bit more, not only in this context that we were discussing tonight, talking about present. Remember what I was telling you at the beginning of our units, we will be discussing some of them in past, like talking about prohibitions and rules that we were having in the past, okay? Well, guys, I'm gonna end the session 2 minutes earlier. That is what's the point of asking you to do an exercise tonight. Guys, don't forget, continue working on the virtual campus. Everybody has the book. and everybody is already enrolled in Moodle. So be careful with that part. And remember that tomorrow we will discuss the arrangements for our speaking part, because remember that our exam is next Tuesday. Okay, guys, as usual, thank you very much. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.
Bye, teacher.
Teacher, bye.
Teacher, have
Take care, everybody.